Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to do an update on the Hasbro situation. We're going to talk about a couple more instances of collectors, consumers walking away from Hasbro and kind of where they're at with things. And then we're going to talk about Hasbro walking away from China. Apparently they're going to India to make their toys. But so that's kind of interesting. And then also their stock got a little bit of a bump, and it could be because they laid a bunch of people off, which is weird. But
well, that's what happened at Disney too.
Yeah, they're like, oh, they're going to be profitable now, right? Right? You're going to be profitable, right? I don't know. We're going to talk about all this. Before we get into it any further, guys, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. You'll get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
And listen to this word from our sponsor. This is a place we like to get our news from. So if you guys have been following the channel, this week we've been covering the story with Hasbro. They cut 1,100 jobs after sluggish toy sales. We got this article from the Wall Street Journal. We covered some other sources. However, we want to look into the situation a little bit more. So we found the article on the Wall Street Journal, but I was curious how else it was being reported by other media outlets. So I searched for it on Ground News. Ground News is an app and website that combines articles from all over the world in one place. This is a great utility if you're looking to get the full picture on a news story. They're sponsoring this video. So let me show you how this works. So I searched for the story in Ground News, and in seconds it pulled up more than 70 other articles published on it. Look at this. All these different outlets, tons and tons of coverage of this Hasbro layoff. Now you can see, looking closer at the headlines, it seems that more of the sources are from the center. However, digging into this a little bit deeper, it looks like one outlet in particular is mentioning additional layoffs, and that's El País. They're saying the strategic transformation at Hasbro is going to result in a much larger workforce cut than originally expected. So El País is actually telling us how many people have been laid off in total. Because we've talked about this before, that it's not just the 1,100 or 1,000 jobs that were cut this week. There actually were several at the beginning of the year as well. And the total number so far for this year for Hasbro is almost 30%. It's 29% of the workers. Right before Christmas, too. I mean, that's terrible. But yeah, it's located in Spain. This is not a news outlet that a lot of Americans would even look at. But thanks to Ground News, we can get numbers from other countries. So next to every headline on Ground News, we can see who owns the source and how credible their reporting is. So El País is owned by a media conglomerate, Prisa, and it says that it actually has a high factuality rate, and it does lean left. It's interesting to read the news this way because a corporate-owned source might have a vested interest in spinning the story differently as opposed to independent media. We run into this with companies that are owned by Hollywood studios, kind of like Warner Brothers and CNN. Sometimes there's a conflict of interest. So thanks to Ground News, I can follow specific topics like Disney or video games. I mean, these are things we talk about on the channel all the time, and I get updates on information I might have otherwise missed. Ground News is fantastic if you're a news hound like we are and you want to find the news and get the whole story. I think what they're doing is really important because it can be easy to let manipulative algorithms reinforce our own bubbles. Go to ground.news/clownfish to check it out for yourself. You can subscribe through my link for less than $1 a month or take advantage of their biggest discount of the year, 40% off unlimited access to the Vantage subscription this month only, which is what I use. I encourage you to check them out. The link is in the description. Thank you again, Ground News, for sponsoring this video. Let's get back into the news. All right, guys, we are back. Thank you again to Ground News for sponsoring this video. And yeah, there's a lot of news about Hasbro, and it's like all over the place. We've been following the situation with Hasbro, the massive amounts of layoffs, the massive amounts of Hasbro stuff
being
rejected by consumers, by collectors, and a lot of it winding up at Ollie's, where Hasbro goes to die. Look at this. It's almost all Hasbro. Almost everything in the toy aisle at Ollie's is Hasbro stuff. And So I thought this was pretty interesting. Being a Transformer collector myself, they announced a $200 Tidal Wave action figure. Now, Tidal Wave is the big aircraft carrier. He's actually a fleet of ships that merge into one giant robot. And he's one of my favorite Armada characters, and I was like super excited. But apparently a lot of retailers are not excited. They're not even going to order him. They're not going to carry him because they said they can't sell the big Transformers for $200.
225 pounds.
Wow. Yeah, this is a UK retailer. This is a Kapow Toys, which I guess is a pretty sizable UK toy retailer. And they've got, look, they have the Masterpiece, the trains and everything. Those are not cheap. But they're saying they can't sell this $200 and some Transformer. They said the Legacy Titan Tidal Wave is due to go live on pre-order tonight, and here's why you should vote with your wallets and not pre-order it. Over the last 3 years, Hasbro have done everything they can to steer people to their direct sales channel and away from established independent retailers. And trying to do this, they have managed to flood the market with products that people don't want or just don't want in the quantity they think they do, ignoring all advice and feedback from fans and stores alike. So the Titan class figures have increased slowly in price, with Tidal Wave being like, it's about $200 US. These figures are huge. For those of you who don't know, one of the other ones they had out recently was Cybertron Metroplex, and he's on clearance because he's a $200 hunk of plastic, and he's not like a really well-known character. And, you know, Amazon.
I know
apparently,
Metroplex.
Yeah, well, this is the Cybertron version. So he doesn't turn into a city,
which is stupid.
He turns into a brick with a scoop.
That's stupid.
On it, he basically just bends over, and he's got a scoop coming out of his ass.
He bends over and takes it.
He bends over and takes it.
Just like they want the consumer to bend over and take it.
Pretty much. Now, robot mode is pretty cool. And I remember Cybertron Metroplex back in the day. Everybody was super excited. They're like, oh my God, Metroplex. That being said, everybody thinks Metroplex, like Metropolis, like city, and not a whatever the hell this is. Like, I don't even know what this is. So he didn't sell very well back in the day, but they decided they were going to make a $200 figure of him. I've seen Scorponok cheap too.
Wait, turn back to his robot form. Go back to the other one. It's literally like him bending over. Go back to him. Like,
yes.
The brick. Those are literally his feet there.
Yes, he just bends over.
And he's literally bending. That's his ass.
Yeah, because I had the original Cybertron Metroplex, and that's what we got him on clearance because they couldn't sell him back then. And he basically just bends over. Yeah, he bends over and takes it. I don't even know what the hell this is supposed to be. I do like the robot mode, and I was tempted. He went down to like $75 at one point, and I was really tempted.
I told you to get him.
He looks good in robot mode, but like he really doesn't transform into much of anything. But yeah, Hasbro wants you to pre-order this item in abundance because your fans, in their eyes, fairly gullible because of the last few releases. Black Zarek, which is a black version of Scorponok, Cybertron Metroplex, which is on clearance, Decepticon Nemesis, the Ark, Autobot Guardian, all of these were, yeah, on clearance. All have appeared at half price or less in under 6 months of their initial release. I kind of got Black Zarek for $70. Jeez. Vote with your wallets. Don't give Hasbro the satisfaction of continually preying on your support for an intellectual property you love. We're not even going to pre-sell Tidal Wave. If it's available at clearance, which is highly likely, then we will carry it and bring it to you guys at a reasonable price while saving you the pain of finding it on Pulse for next to nothing in a few months. That's it. People are pre-ordering these, and they're paying a lot of money, and they're characters that I've seen them at conventions even. I've seen Scorponoks for like $100 at conventions because they make so many of them.
What did you buy? Was that the one I wanted to buy and you told me no?
Yeah, I said don't worry about it. I think they wanted too much for it. This guy I freaking love, but I don't know if I love him $200. We won't be
his gun boobs.
gun tits. Yeah, he does. He's got gun testicles too. I loved him. You remember Tidal Wave? I had him.
I do remember.
Yeah, he was a big. I like my bricky, blocky Transformers, and I loved Armada. Armada is actually my second favorite Transformers line behind
brick houses.
I do, but he was just a big, beautiful brick, and he's actually in the Japanese colors because they made him green for some reason over here. I don't know, but yeah, they said we're not going to pre-sell him. They thought we're going to be able to pre-sell 200 units of Tidal Wave to you guys, even though we communicated to them last two releases were horrendously overpriced with little to no interest outside of completist collectors. It's fair for a company like Hasbro to want your money. What isn't fair is the continual abuse of fan goodwill. And we're seeing this across the board. It's not just Transformers. Actually, I would say Transformers, they're doing better than a lot of their other toy lines, but they're still clearing them out for next to nothing. Walmart had the 2-packs on sale. $7 for two $25 Transformers.
True.
This is true because I picked some of them up. But
Look at
D&D
one
action
right
figures.
now.
Look at this. Like, this is
Yeah, that's what everybody's complaining about with those.
People were so excited when they were going to do these, but they hid them inside the box, claiming it was for environmental purposes. And it wasn't. It was to hide how shitty the action figures were. Because you can recycle plastic. Did you know that? Did you know you can recycle plastic? Yeah, you can totally recycle plastic. And now they've got the recycle logo on their plastic bubbles again. But now it looks like they're outsourcing the Super 7. So this is what I'm telling you. I think this is where things are going to go. I don't think Hasbro really wants to be in the toy business anymore. And these look amazing. I mean, compared to the shit that they were, look at this. These look great. And Super 7's not, I mean, I know a lot of people are like, Super 7's not the best quality ever, but I don't think they're going to be falling apart out of the damn box, you know, and they're going to cost more. But collectors, if you're going to buy one version of the animated characters, I would say buy the Super 7 version. But the fact that they're outsourcing these to Super 7 and they just made them themselves tells me that they're just not interested in doing toys anymore, because I don't think they're making the money off them. So what they're doing is they're trying to bleed collectors with things like $200 Transformers, you know, $600 G.I. Joe Hiss tanks or whatever they were. I mean, they were like ridiculously expensive, and then they wind up on clearance because very few people actually want them, or they wind up at Ollie's. You know, everything winds up at Ollie's. But what's interesting is that they are shifting production from China to India now.
For sure.
A lot of these companies, apparently Mattel has been doing it for the last couple of years. And I think they're doing this partially because, and it might actually explain some of the quality issues, but I think they're doing it partially because we don't know where we're going to be at with China. Like, are we going to have a Cold War with China? We don't know.
They're also talking about how China's getting as expensive as it is over here, which is true.
That's true. That is true.
I mean, at that point, just bring it back here.
So this was Reuters put this out a couple days ago, and they said 6 years ago, Monopoly maker, it should just be Monopoly Hasbro, approached Indian durable goods and aerospace supplier to do subcontracting for toys. So they were making aerospace stuff, and they're like, hey, can you make toys? So they're saying that this company and other manufacturers acknowledge India and other countries can't match China for efficiency, limiting companies' efforts to shift to lower cost bases and raising the risk of higher toy prices in the future if the bulk of production remains in China.
Because the cost in China is going up.
Yeah.
But they're probably making them more efficient and probably better.
That's the thing. Now, I remember back in the day with Mattel, like the He-Man and the She-Ra figures, you look at them and some of them were made in like Malaysia and some of them were made, and they had different like head sculpts depending on, you know, where they were made. They have multiple factories. But everything's been kind of sent to China. They said, yeah, China's been doing this for the last 30 years. Their efficiency levels are much better than ours. For toy manufacturers, including Hasbro and Mattel, the risk of relying on China for most of their production were highlighted during COVID. I'll tell you, we had the same issue. Being book publishers, we had the same issue. We actually had to shift from our Chinese publisher or overseas publisher to an American publisher. And
it started out great.
And then everything went to hell. So now we're back with the overseas publisher.
But they said that they were backed up at the ports in China, but then they couldn't get into the ports here either. Remember, like there were ships waiting and they couldn't get them into the ports.
Yes.
So they started flying the stuff from China in. And when they did that, it cost a lot more money. So the prices went up because of that. I remember all that.
Yeah, and they said the soaring labor costs in China because, again, we're reallocating our money overseas to China, so they're doing very well, and they said it's driving manufacturers across industries to diversify production geographically. The
cost it takes to go there and then ship it here? Why don't they just open some factories here?
That is a damn good question. You know,
I can't think it costs that much more here, given the costs over there now.
Yeah, so I think, and look, here's the thing. Hasbro especially, they're looking to get as much blood out of the stones they have as they possibly can. So even if they send the toys to another country, do you think the consumer is going to get a discount? If they can make an action figure for $2 instead of $4, do you think they're gonna mark the price down on those figures?
So they're gonna charge the same amount. They don't get the pockets much though,
and they might not be made as well because again, they're not used to making toys like they are in China. So they could ship them to some other country, and yeah, you get them done cheaper, but they might not be as good. It said Hasbro began addressing its outsized dependence on China as an operational risk back in 2018. Mattel started shifting away from China since 2007 because they had to recall millions of toys.
I remember that. I do remember that.
Efforts across the industry have ramped up since the pandemic. So they're gonna say that's why they're charging more, though. They're gonna be, oh, Chinese labor is more, and pandemic. They're still gonna blame the pandemic. It's 2023, and they're gonna be like, oh, because of the pandemic, the Transformers cost twice as much now. Nope, nothing we can do about it.
You're saying too because they said the raw materials have went up in China too. They're looking for places we can get more reasonable costs.
Yeah,
that's Bandai.
That's Bandai, yeah. So they're basically de-risking China because of this. MGA, they talk about MGA. They make the LL Surprise and Brass dolls. They found infrastructure outside China, in India and Vietnam. And again,
I'd be worried about China and the fact that all these weird things, viruses, is coming out of China.
I know, right?
I'm just saying.
Oh my God, the Transformers are going to contain the hate plague. That was so Transformers. One of the last episodes they had, the G1 series, they had the hate plague. It turned the Transformers red, and they would just hate each other. It was kind of like a Care Bears episode. Yeah,
sounds like a Care Bears.
Yeah, it was. Then they had to use the Matrix, which was kind of like the Care Bear stare, to get rid of it. But yeah, so I don't know, guys. It just seems like everybody's kind of like, everything's up in the air. I don't think they want to be a toy company. I really don't think they want to be a toy company. I just think,
anymore. There's no reason now, given the advancements in the way they make things with the printers and all that kind of stuff, 3D printers and things, there's no reason why they can't manufacture them in other places.
Yeah,
I don't think you could. I think you could probably manufacture them here if you wanted to.
So as this news is coming out, which I thought was really interesting, when Hasbro's talking about moving their production out of China and they're laying people off, and all of a sudden their stock goes up a little bit.
Yeah, because when there's announcements of layoffs and cost-cutting measures, that usually happens. When Disney announced that they were cutting 7,000 jobs, their stock went up temporarily too.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, you might be profitable. Okay.
And it went down really, really, really low again for a while, and now it's coming back up slowly. But yeah.
Well, I think once they realize that Hasbro still has no plan, that they have no plan, and that like them laying a bunch of people off means they're going to have less product going forward, which means less profit. Like, I don't think they're looking at the long term. Because I don't even know what Hasbro, like, it just seems like their plan is to basically exist until they magically transition into a video game company. I have no idea what their long-term plan is, but they're pissing off toy collectors, and that's like the last demographic you still have. Like, there are grown-ass men, myself included, who will drop...
And women.
And women.
Yeah. And women.
And women who will drop big bucks on collectible toys, and they're walking away. The freaking retailers are walking away. The collectors are walking away. Everybody's just walking away.
Parents aren't buying them for their kids either because they're too expensive.
They're $25. They wanted like $25 for these D&D figures.
And they're shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And kids, they're not going to know what these characters are anyway. They're just going to be like, oh, look, my little toy man with horns broke. I got it at Ollie's for $3. It broke. Oh, well, throw it out.
I call him horny.
Horny. I actually...
I know, that's why I said it.
I had a stuffed unicorn when I was a kid. I got it out of a crane machine, and I named it Horny, and I got in trouble. I didn't know what horny meant. But my unicorn was named Horny. Horny the unicorn. That needs to be our next comic book.
Legs. It's a whole problem.
Horny the unicorn. Anyway, we're going to wrap this up.
He sees that Transformer bent over, and he's just like, hot damn.
Cannot wait.
Can't wait to see their children. All right. So
please subscribe. Please subscribe. Please. For more pop culture news, views, rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.